sound of clanking metal echoed through the small, dusty auto repair shop as Evan Carter wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his oil-stained hand. The midday sun burned hot against the corrugated iron roof, turning the air thick and heavy. He looked down at his cracked phone screen. Another overdue bill notification blinked. His throat tightened, not from the heat, but from the weight pressing down on his chest. Rent, groceries, his son's school fees, the numbers never seemed to add up. It had been a year since his wife Hannah passed away. A year since his world had gone from laughter-filled mornings to the silence of 2 chairs at breakfast, one always empty. He had promised himself he'd keep going for his little boy Leo, only 8 years old, with messy curls and a heart too pure for the struggles he already understood too well. But lately Evan's spirit was running on fumes, much like the cars he worked on. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small miracles, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Keenness Journal. Because today's story might just remind you that even a single act of compassion can change an entire life. That day began like any other. Evan was tightening the bolts on an old pickup when he heard the crunch of tires on gravel. A sleek, silver sedan rolled up, the kind of car that didn't usually stop in front of his worn-out garage on the outskirts of town. The driver's window rolled down to reveal a woman, maybe in her early 30s, with sharp green eyes and an expression of quiet worry. "Hi, are you open?" she asked, her voice soft but urgent. "My car just died a few miles back, and I barely made it here." Evan nodded. "Pop the hood. I'll take a look." She stepped out, her crisp white blouse and neat jeans standing out against the dusty lot. She introduced herself as Claire Benson, a marketing consultant on her way to a client meeting. As Evan leaned over the engine, he could tell instantly. The alternator was shot. A quick fix, but not a cheap one. "It's the alternator," he said finally, wiping his hands. "You'll need a new one. I can try to patch it up for now, but it won't last long." Her face fell. "Oh, I see. How much would that be?" Evan hesitated. Normally, he'd charge at least $100 for the work, but looking at her, the worry in her eyes, the tremble in her voice, something in him softened. "Don't worry about it," he said. "I'll just fix what I can. It'll get you where you need to go." Claire blinked. "You're serious?" Evan smiled faintly. "Yeah, but I might take payment in something else." Her eyebrows raised. "Like a sandwich," he finished, half joking. "Haven't eaten since morning." For the first time, she laughed, a sound that seemed to melt the heavy air around them. "Deal," she said. "I can manage that." 2 hours later, while Evan worked under the hood, Claire ran to a nearby cafe and came back with a brown paper bag and 2 iced coffees. They sat on the curb outside the shop, eating sandwiches in silence broken by easy conversation. She asked about his life, and though Evan was usually guarded, something about her genuine interest made him open up. He told her about Leo, about losing his wife, about how business had slowed since the pandemic. She listened, really listened, not with pity, but with the kind of empathy that made him feel seen again. Before leaving, she thanked him 3 times, promising to send more people his way. Evan didn't think much of it. People said things like that all the time. The next day, though, everything changed. It was around 10 a.m. when Evan pulled up the creaky garage door and saw the same silver sedan parked outside. But this time, Claire wasn't alone. A black SUV and a small delivery van were behind her. She waved excitedly and stepped out holding a clipboard. "Morning, Evan," she said, smiling wider than he'd ever seen. "I hope you don't mind. I brought some company." Evan frowned slightly. "Oh, sure. What's going on?" Claire motioned toward the van. "I work with a local outreach program that supports small businesses. After you helped me yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about how much heart you put into your work. So I made a few calls." 2 men from the van began unloading boxes, shiny new tools, oil containers, branded uniforms, even a small portable lift system. Evan's heart pounded as he stared, unable to process what was happening. Claire continued, "We're officially sponsoring your shop. New tools, signage, digital listings, everything you need to get Carter Auto Repair back on its feet. And, well, I might have also talked to the local paper. They're coming tomorrow to do a feature about your story." For a long moment, Evan couldn't speak. His throat burned. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "Claire, this is too much. I just fixed your car." She shook her head gently. No, Evan, you didn't just fix my car. You reminded me that kindness still exists, and the world needs to see that. His hands trembled as he took in the sight, new life being breathed into the place that had felt like a tomb for his dreams. Leo came running from the small house next door, eyes wide. "Dad, are these ours?" Evan knelt, hugging him tight. "Looks like it, buddy." His voice cracked. "Looks like it." Over the next few weeks, everything seemed to change. Business started picking up as people from around town came by, some just to see the kind mechanic from the article, others to genuinely support him. He put up a small sign outside that read, "Kindness is the best repair." But the biggest change wasn't in the shop. It was in Evan himself. He started smiling again, started believing again. Claire visited often, checking in to help him set up his online listings or bring coffee for him and Leo. There was a quiet warmth between them, something unspoken but undeniable. One afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows over the shop floor, Claire found Evan sitting on an overturned crate, staring at an old photo of Hannah on the wall. She sat beside him without a word. "You know," Evan said quietly, "I used to think life stopped giving second chances after you lose someone. But maybe it just waits for the right people to bring them." Claire smiled softly. "Maybe it does." They sat there in silence, the hum of distant traffic blending with the faint chirping of birds outside. 2 months passed, and Carter Auto Repair became a small town favorite, not because of fancy ads or new tools, but because of the story behind it. People said they could feel the difference in the way Evan treated his customers, like every repair was a chance to return what life had once taken from him. Claire became more than just a friend. She became a part of their little family. She'd bring Leo his favorite chocolate chip cookies, help him with homework while Evan worked late, and sometimes they'd all have dinner together on the porch. There were no declarations, no dramatic moments, just quiet, healing companionship that slowly grew into something stronger. One evening, as they all watched the sun dip beyond the horizon, Leo turned to Claire and said, "You know, Miss Claire, my dad smiles more when you're around." Claire's eyes softened. Evan felt his face flush, but he didn't deny it. He couldn't. Because in that moment, surrounded by warmth, laughter, and the scent of grilled sandwiches from the kitchen, he realized how far he'd come from that day he worked just for food. He looked at Claire and said, "You really did change my life, you know." She smiled. "You changed mine first." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Because kindness doesn't just heal others, it rebuilds the broken pieces within ourselves too. And before you scroll away, take a second to comment one act of kindness you've experienced or given recently. You never know who might be inspired by your story next. That single day, a sandwich, a stranger, and a small act of generosity had rewritten Evan's destiny. He didn't have riches or fame, but he had something far more valuable: hope. Hope that sometimes the smallest kindness can ripple through lives and return as something unimaginable. Because in the bright daylight of that small town, where engines hummed and laughter returned, one simple truth became clear: a good heart always finds its way home.